Everyone, it's Tasleem, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about how Kizomba connected me to my earth element as well as the root chakra. So when I came into Kizomba, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just heard about the dance and was really intrigued because it seemed very different from the other dances that I was doing. It didn't travel much. It was very contained. It looked kind of simple on the outside, but you could tell that there were little intricacies inside and little tricks and little flair type things with the hips and stuff that I wanted to learn and I was curious about. So I took some lessons and was lucky enough to learn from international instructors right from the start. And very quickly, I fell in love with the dance. Even though I was learning just basics, there was this feeling in Kizomba that was very different from the other dances that I was doing. And at first, I couldn't describe it, but even I was just enjoying doing basics. Like I was happy to learn more moves, but I found that it was one of those dances that even if I was doing just a couple of basic moves, I still felt the same good feeling, addictive kind of feeling. I wanted to keep doing it and I just kept on going with it. And then I was learning more and I was learning more moves and getting more into it. But I found that even when I would go out social dancing, if there were other people that came into Kizomba and they were learning more moves, even maybe more than I knew, and they were so used to learning salsa and bachata and learning it quickly and really being advanced in it, I found it really difficult to connect with them if they weren't doing this movement or this energy in Kizomba that I feel like now I understand that to me it's like the essence of Kizomba, which is a really downward energy. Downward as in into the ground, but not downward as in like sinking or your knees bending and bending down, but the energy going down into the ground and then doing it in a way that the energy actually it goes down and then the ground the energy brings it back into your body. And that feeling is amazing. Like I know that in other dances they say use the floor and push off the floor like in tango or salsa, but most of the time it's pushing off the floor to go somewhere, like to travel or to take the next step. But in Kizomba, I felt like pushing down into the ground, into the floor. A lot of the times it wasn't even to move into a traveling step. It was just to move that energy that you put into the ground and came back up into you to move it throughout your body. And I started realizing that that's where all the moves that looked fancier came from, like the Saida or the Darshinya, all the hip movement that I was really intrigued by. That was really coming from this basic, like into the ground feeling. So I was really enjoying it. And when I would go dancing, if someone was, had learned a lot of moves, if I felt like they were open enough, if they weren't actually pushing into the ground, I would ask them, can I give you a little tip? And then they would say, sure. And then I would connect with them and push into the ground myself so they could just mimic my movement. And once they did that, it completely changed the dance for me. Like they were doing all these fancy moves earlier and I felt no connection. And then they just made that little switch that just took a few seconds often to pick up. And once they did it, it just like, I was like, yeah, this is what I came here for. Like this to me is what makes Kizomba Kizomba. And it really changed the dance for me in just a few seconds. And hopefully for the partner as well. So I realized that this grounding feeling into the floor, it's fun and it's great connected to this dance that I love so much. But it also became something that I started being able to use later in my life for other areas of my life. Dancing Kizomba actually brought me back grounding and a base and stability and balance and connection to the earth, um, in through dance, but to help me in other areas of my life. So I found that sometimes I would go away from Kizomba and I would dance other dances, or I was doing other things in my life. But whenever I would suddenly get this burst of like, oh, it's like I need Kizomba. Like I really want to dance it right now. Like I would go through these periods of feeling this way and I didn't know what it was. I thought, oh, I'm just craving the dance and the music and it's very unique. But I realized that now I actually can put it together with periods in my life where I was losing my own grounding. I felt shaky in my sense of home, or my sense of belonging, or my sense of fitting in. And this is actually a huge part of what the root chakra is all about. So the root chakra is it gives us the sense of stability and home. It makes us feel like, we have a right to be here, that we are on this earth for a purpose and we have every right to be here, and that we belong and we fit in and that we're welcome. But there's so many things that happen in our lives that make us feel unwelcome. It could be, we're at school and we get bullied, or we don't fit in with, like, for example, the religious culture community that I grew up in. I value so much of what I learned from it, but I didn't feel like I fit into the mainstream idea of like what kind of careers to go in if you're in that community, or what kind of relationships to be in. I was never dating guys that were the same faith, the Ismaili Muslim faith. And I felt like I was made to feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like I would have to introduce the boyfriend as a friend instead of a partner, or a more romantic relationship because they weren't Ismaili, or maybe the career choice that I went into was, or like the things that I loved doing that were more artsy didn't fit into like the business or science or medicine mainstream kind of way of thinking that I felt like the community really pushed and really um, acknowledged as like higher and more useful, I guess you could say. And I am generalizing. Obviously, not everyone felt that way, but things like that can make us feel like we don't fit in. If you come from a community where, you're one race or color and everyone else is of a different race or color, if you don't feel like you're being welcomed, or if you're treated like an outsider, that can make a big difference in your sense of belonging. If you were adopted, if you have a family that wasn't together, or you don't have a sense of stability in your family, that can make it hard to feel supported or feel trusting in people and feel like you can just let go and not worry. So, this sense of like the root chakra is very much about fitting in, feeling like you belong, forming roots into the ground, like, you know, actually having roots metaphorically from family that you feel stable and connected to, but also those roots into the ground nourishing you back through ancestors, and giving you the energy to like feel like, yes, like I know my history, I know where I fit in and who my family is. But if you don't have that, you can have a very unbalanced root chakra. The energy is not there. And the thing is that root chakra actually feeds all the other chakras. So the root chakra is at the base of the spine, and all the other chakras go up from there. The energy centers are the chakras. And if the root chakra is depleted or out of balance, or you don't feel stable or fit in, all the other energy centers get affected. So, and the root chakra is really connected to your like base of your body, your legs, your sense of balance, your like in your physical body, your feet, the way you walk, that kind of thing. So the confidence in your stride. So it can really affect your physiology. And I was realizing that sometimes I was craving Kizomba, yes, just for the fun of it, but other times it would come out of nowhere when I hadn't done it for so long. And I could actually connect it to times when I felt disconnected um, from friends or family, or my mom passed away 7 years ago, and I found that I was actually shaky in my legs. I felt very ungrounded. I don't think it was a coincidence, because she was like the glue to what I felt my family was. So there was a lot of ungroundedness and out of balance kind of feeling. And at that time, I was craving something to give me roots, to like connect me to my mom and her like ever nurturing, like unconditional love, like that support that I always felt from her. And it's interesting that I was trying to dance other dances, but I felt very shaky and very like I couldn't make the traveling steps very well, or I didn't have the strength to do those dances. But with Kizomba, because the steps were small and contained, and I could focus more on my feet pushing into the ground and have the movement be the little movements that were coming into my body where I was at, that helped me feel like I was able to dance and get more balance and get more stability through dance without having to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to dance anymore because this isn't working. So Kizomba actually like was really helpful in rooting me down into my root chakra and into the earth. And this is really connected to the earth element, because the earth element is all about support. It's about giving. Like earth element people are really giving, nurturing. The archetype is the mother that gives and feeds and welcomes and makes sure everyone feels really included. My mom was definitely like the epitome of earth element. And the flip side to the earth element is that it's beautiful that they give. And I'm sure that my dominant element is earth, but earth element people give so much that they forget to give to themselves. They forget to set healthy boundaries. They can often lose their own sense of energy and strength because they're giving so much to other people and worrying about other people, and they forget to say no sometimes so that they can say yes to themselves and bring their own support and receive their own support. So I found that in Kizomba, my sense of home, my sense of family, my sense of sometimes fitting in with culture or society was shaky at times. But Kizomba brought me back this sturdiness, and it allowed me to push into the ground and use the support of the earth to push back up and say, no, I've got you, we've got you, like you're fully supported. And it made me feel supported more emotionally and physically, and also like support in terms of spirit, just feeling like there's something bigger, greater than me that's actually supporting me. And I could trust into that. Like the earth element is very, there's this sense of trust there, that if you feel in balance in your earth element and in your root chakra, you're trusting that something's holding you, that something's supporting you. So I love this like downward motion of Kizomba and that pushing into the earth. Um, it is, you know, West African roots, and Africa is a huge part of my background. My mom was born in East Africa in Uganda. My dad was born in Tanzania. My brother was born in Tanzania, and our history was Indian, but there's a lot of this African beats and drumming and instruments and music and sounds that is also part of my upbringing. That came from where my mom grew up and where my brother and my dad were born, and also my uncle. My uncle Amin had a restaurant called Kilimanjaro, which was named after the mountain in East Africa. And that was my like second home, being at the restaurant, surrounded by belly dancers, surrounded by African music, by steel drums, by that groundedness, like that grittiness in the dance, in the sounds, in the food, like that earth element. Like I was fed there, and it was delicious, like the smells and the tastes. And so I think that when I really connected with Kizomba, all of that also got brought into the mix. Like I couldn't figure out what is it that I feel so like this is something that is so me, but how could it be? Because I had never done it before, and it felt foreign in one sense, but also so like it made me feel at home in another sense. And I think it was because that background of mine, that ancestral, you know, Africa, India kind of background, the sounds and the nurturing and all of that was really in that movement, in the downward support, the the safety, the security, and feeling the earth helping to give me that support as well. So I love how, you know, there's so much richness in learning a dance, because there's the fun aspect, there's the physical exercise, it connects us with other people and community, and it gives us our own little community to like share this passion that we have. But there's also this like individual sense of, for me, Kizomba really connected me to this earth element. And for another person, maybe Kizomba is very like connects them to the heart chakra, or the fire element, or the third eye, like, you know, intuition chakra. Each dance can maybe connect with different people in different areas of the body, and bring out something in each one of us that is different for each one of us. But for me, Kizomba really tapped into earth element, African roots, down into the ground, like, you know, feet, like bare feet. Like the African dance is so much about like connecting to the land and the earth and being in bare feet, and honoring the land that you're on, and movements coming from like everyday life, movements of everyday daily activities. And I think I needed that. Like I've never been to East Africa, but it was like I felt something in that. I felt rooted. I felt connected to that background of mine. And I felt like something was being filled in for the spaces, or the gaps, or the traumas, or the disconnections that I had in the past, or my family had. For example, my family was kicked out of Uganda by Idi Amin in the 70s, and they had to come here with nothing. And so they were kicked out of their own homes. So their earth element in their bodies, in their systems, in their energy was kind of shaken up. Um, and that gets passed down to us. Like, even though my mom never mentioned it, never made us feel like bad about it, never talked about it in a sense that she was like, like overburdened or overwhelmed by it. I never heard anything about that from her, but we can sense it, right? Like, our bodies can sense it. And I think my body it could sense what maybe my family went through, what my parents went through. And it was craving like something grounded and something that could stabilize me and maybe fill in the gaps of the things that were disconnected in my parents' generation, or the earth or the roots that were uprooted quite violently in a way because they were forced to leave where they were born. And I feel like Kizomba and these kind of dances actually help bridge those gaps and fill in those holes, not just for me, but for my ancestors and for what I feel that they may have gone through. So I feel so lucky to have experienced this dance and to keep, for it to keep calling to me when it knows that I need it. And I'm going to keep dancing Kizomba for the fun of it, but also to make me feel at home, make me feel supported, make me feel stabilized, remind me of the roots, that I have a right to be here, that I have a purpose here, that I am connected to earth and nature. And I'm also wearing like the earth element colors are like tans and browns and yellowish colors. And I love wearing that. Sometimes I need to wear it just to make me feel even more rooted. So I just wanted to share this with you. I'm curious what kind of dances or what kind of activities might make you feel more rooted or more grounded or pushing into the ground. Hip hop was one that I was toying with the idea of including in here because that has a very grounded, like downward energy as well. I'd love to hear from some of you hip hop dancers if you feel that, or any other African dance or belly dance. Let me know. Maybe it's not a dance, maybe it's another activity that you do. I would love to hear from you, and thank you all for listening.